Hi everyone. So I'm doing a video that's different from my reviews and announcement video since I've got a few days off, and maybe I want to talk about something that is like breaking news in the past, couple of hours. Those in the fantasy kind of fiction world will probably know about this by the time this goes out. Basically, Sherilyn Kenyon, who does a fantasy series and has been publishing her books since like the late 90s, is suing Cassandra Clare for basically taking her ideas and under the terminology of shadow hunters. Now, I'm reading Cassandra Clare's books. As I've said, I've started this week on the first prequel of the Mortal Instruments and such, and basically Sherilyn is saying that terminology and various things that Cassandra Clare has used came from her work. And reading this, I was, first of all, I read the post on Facebook and I was like, wow, that's pretty big deal for her to sue Cassandra Clare for this, not just because of the fact that she's suing her, but the fact that it's kind of based around an idea is what she's suing her for. It's not it's not straight copyright, plagiarism. It's a concept that she's angry about, and the fact that Cassandra Clare also wrote, first published the Mortal Instrument books in 2007. It's now 2016. She's waited this long to sue her. I don't know if it's just a case of it's taken years and years and years to get to this point. I have absolutely no idea. But still, it's like, okay, why is it a big deal now and not then? But, as I said, it could have taken years for it to get to this point. I have absolutely no idea. Now, when it comes to Sherilyn's books, I haven't read her books, so I don't know how similar they are to Cassandra Clare's books. But I've been looking around at Facebook comments about this, Tumblr, Twitter, that kind of thing. And to be honest, quite a few people just say, those who have read both series, that they're independent. They're separate in their own rights. That they've never compared the two. So, there hasn't been any kind of thought in their mind that links the two together. So, therefore, shouldn't it be the case of that they are seen as independent stories and such, independent ideas? Well, that's something obviously that the court system will have to decide if it goes any further or if it gets settled out of court. We'll just have to find out, wait and see. But it did make me think about other books that are similar, very similar in many cases, because of an idea and how they haven't got a problem. Where there hasn't been an issue with those. There haven't been like wars between the authors in courts over it. So I thought I would play a little game, and I'm going to have to bob down occasionally to grab books that I've got on my floor because I'm going to be holding up books to show you. So first of all, I'm going to play a game, and it's called Guess the Book. And basically, I'm going to hold up a couple of books. Some of them I've only got one book in my book collection, so I haven't been able to have the second one held up, but I'll describe you what one is. And basically, describe it, do a description, and see if you can figure out which one is, is the book I'm talking about. Just for fun and just to show that there are books out there, huge books that have got millions of copies sold, that have similar ideas, but they're independent in their own right. Okay, so your first one, I think these two are going to be very obvious, but let's go for it. The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins, big, millions of copies sold as you can get, as you know, and Divergent by Veronica Roth. Now, with this book I'm going to describe is set in post-apocalyptic America. It surrounds a girl who is rather different than everybody else. She basically starts a revolution to take down the man to get peace back amongst the part of America that she lives in, and basically save everybody from the turmoil that they're living in. Which book am I talking about? From that description, it could be either book. that is basically the premise of each of these. Now they do differ slightly because of, you know, various different aspects. If you want to get really petty, there are things like Katniss in Hunger Games has got long dark brown hair, and she has a sister in you know, Divergent. Our leader Beatrice, she has got a brother, and I think her hair is kind of like an auburn or blonde kind of you know, kind of hair. If you want to get petty, that's down to the level of difference. But of course, obviously, you've got various other aspects to do with the way in which the world is constructed and everything. But you see what I mean? You've got the same premise. The lead is a girl who's about, you know, 16, 17, who leads a revolution, who breaks, you know, to take down the big man, to be able to live in peace, and it's a post-apocalyptic world. Why, you know, these authors could go to war with each other in court because there is similar ideas, but that's the point. It's an idea. You can't. It's not like in this you know, court case that Cassandra Clare has actually written word for word copying another author's books, because that is, you know, obviously proper copyright infringement. But it just seems a bit strange to get angry over an idea, a concept. Now, you know, and it does beg the question about, you know, things like fan fiction. Does that mean that fan fiction is, in a sense, breaching copyright because you're using the characters and such that are from a source, but you're making it your own? Isn't that what the authors of Pride and Prejudice and Zombies did? They took the work of Jane Austen and wove in the zombie element to create this great book. So is this copyright infringement? You know, obviously with Jane Austen, because she's dead, I suppose in a sense legally it's a different matter. But still, is that the same? I don't know. And then, if you know, we want to get on to other books that are similar, let's try Guess the Book again. But this time we're going to go where books where we've got some lead guys. So we're going to go for Percy Jackson versus Harry Potter. Now, it follows a boy who finds out that there's something different about him when he reaches his teens. Kind of, you know, kind of thing. Strange things happen to him, even though, you know, he just takes them as just being weird things. He doesn't think them as being anything more. He finds out that the people around him have known this secret about him for a very long time. He goes off to a place to learn about why he's different, and basically to develop his skills in order to fight you know, bad guys and such, and be able to live in this new world that he knows absolutely nothing about, where it's full of lifelong friends, and he learns a hell of a lot about himself and what it means to be, you know, to be a good friend. Which book am I talking about? Can't tell. You know, it's this case. Yeah, in Harry Potter it's magic. In Percy Jackson is Greek mythology. That's the only kind of real difference. You know, again, the concept, Percy Jackson has had many, many books. Harry Potter's had 7 books as well. It's just a concept that is similar, but they are completely independent in their own rights. So surely, isn't that also the same thing? Then I started thinking about, you know, books that you could very easily, it may not just be a case of the actual way in which the world is formed, you know, the references to certain types of people. So, you know, obviously that's very the kind of fantasy world and such. But there's also, if you look at classic literature as well, you've got, you know, books where you could also say that they are basically the same idea. They're just, but you know, the authors of those didn't go to court with each other. So let's try, and this says this is one where I've only got one book. So the imaginary book I'm holding is Tolstoy's War and Peace, and the other book I'm going to hold is Victor Hugo's Les Miserables. It's set around a revolution. It follows individuals of different ages going through this. It also follows, you know, life, love, the loss of people in war, trying to escape your past, and basically learning where you stand in this new world, and what's the new world, how the new world will affect you for good or bad. Which book am I talking about? War and Peace or Les Miserables? Once again, can't tell the difference. It is kind of, it is crazy when you think about it, how many stories, whether they're classic literature or if they're new fiction or, you know, anything, they are so similar in their ways. And I even got down to the level of looking at fantasy again, but also looking at another classic literature. I'm you know, a bit concerned this is dragging on for a bit, so I'll go as quick as I can with this. So the next thing I want to talk about is construction of a story in regards to where you go from point A to point B. So, you know, let's do a comparison between the Harry Potter novels and the Lord of the Rings. Okay, they're both fantasy books, but they're obviously very, very, very different. But they're not. If you think about it, we have got a band of people who come together in order to fight evil in a fantasy world, and basically take down the bad guy, and it's all about the testing of friendship, and the way in which, you know, life works. Am I talking about the Lord of the Rings, or am I talking about Harry Potter? You decide. And then I kind of went a bit, you know, kind of just thinking about how it's obviously not just fantasy novels and such, as I showed with, you know, the Pride and Prejudice Zombies and Les Miserables, and War and Peace and such. But I was also thinking about character development as well, because you could say the character development that, you know, can be very, very similar in different books. And one kind of comparison popped into my head, which I never ever thought would do, but I was just looking at my book collection preparing for this video, and it just sprang to me, and I've never made this comparison before, and I'm so shocked that I haven't. And the comparison is Wuthering Heights and Gone with the Wind. Now, very, very, very different stories. You know, wouldn't have thought there'd be any kind of familiar aspect to it. But let's think about it. Wuthering Heights is about Cathy and Heathcliff, who have this really, really wonderful love story, but at the same time, they go through these periods of loving each other, hating each other, you know, throwing glasses at each other's heads, and, you know, really going through this absolutely unbelievably messed up relationship, going through these crazy things, but still absolutely adoring each other, despite all of the hatred and all the horrible things that they say and do to each other. Who does that remind you of? Oh, I don't know about you, but it reminds me of Red Butler and Scarlett O'Hara. You know, it's just like, you know, he's quite. I was so shocked when I hadn't never even thought of these characters being similar in any way at all, yet they really are. So I think this whole thing about the whole suing over the, you know, the ideas and the concepts and terminologies and such. Obviously, I haven't read Sherilyn's book, so as I said, I can't come on it. I can only go on what people are saying on Tumblr and Facebook and everything. But from what I can tell, fans see them very independent from each other. Even though they are in the same similar world, they are completely separate. But as I've pointed out, you know, in this video, because the two books can be, you know, very separate, they can also be very similar. It will be interesting to see what happens with this court case, if it will get settled out of course, if it out of court, if it won't. If it won't, the outcome could also be very interesting, because could that mean that, say, if Sherilyn wins, does that mean that Cassandra Clare's books are going to have to be reprinted to take out the references to Shadowhunters and call them something else? What's going to happen? What does that mean for other books that are similar to each other? And it's just, I just find it very odd. And if other authors aren't kicking up a fuss and getting angry about their books, and possibly other authors having the same kind of ideas as their books, why is this happening now? That's all I can say about that, really. I'm going to stop now. I think my little rant is over. I read about this on right as I got on the bus on the way home, and I've rushed home and I've put on my laptop and I've started talking. So if what I've just said for the last 15 minutes has been a load of rubbish, then it's just my babbling, my trying to get this out of my system after the surprise of seeing it on Facebook on my phone on the way home. But yeah, what do you think about this whole situation? Do you agree with going to court? Do you not agree? Have you read both book series? Do you have an opinion? I'd love to hear what you think. You can leave comments for me on this video, or if you want to show what you think the other way, give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Entirely up to you, but I'd love to hear what you think. And let's see what happens in the future about this case. It'll be a very, very interesting one, and we'll see, especially with whatever the outcome will be. I think it's something that might have to keep an eye on. So I'll be back soon with more videos, and I will see you then.